Hello, I'm Ted Lederer, and you're watching It's All About Art. Today I'm here with painter Katherine Surridge in her studio in Vancouver, British Columbia. Hello, Katherine.
Hey, Ted.
Hi. Well, thank you for inviting us to your studio.
Thank you.
We're surrounded by some of your art. I understand that there's an upcoming exhibition, City Trees, Other Voices, at the Elliott Lewis Gallery, and it's happening July 22nd to August 9th, and the opening's on the 24th. Maybe tell us a little bit about the exhibition?
Well, I've always loved trees, and I've always drawn trees.
Right.
I paint things that are in my immediate environment, but I also like to bring in personal things as well into my work. And I've always been interested in writing and journal writing and writing stories. So my work integrates the written word with a structure, and trees happen to be the structure that I'm working with, or I have been for the last number of years. I've just become more and more interested in the spirit of the trees. I feel that the trees have a spirit, funny enough. I feel like they're protectors for me. They're part of the city, they're part of my youth, they're part of, I grew up in Point Grey on West 23rd, and those trees were, my friends and I sat under them and ate apples and ran up and down those streets. So they've always been part of my life. So they're icons for growth and for nature in the city, for our need to connect with nature.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a long-time Vancouver painter, and you've pretty much used script in your paintings since the beginning. Is that?
It is, yeah. I started using the script, I guess came out of my first early days of printmaking in the early 70s, and I wanted to show energy and movement in my work, and the written word or mark making or symbols in my work through the line was a way I could show movement through my work. And I was always interested in that graphic element in painting. Even though I love to paint, I always wanted, drawing really was a big part of my artwork. Whenever I painted, even if it was my backyard or my farm that I lived on, and I used architectural structure, I always had these words going through in one form or another. I never really wanted people to see the written words, so people may not have seen them, but they were there for me. So they're thoughts that come off the painting and create an energy that comes off the painting. And
your paintings are oil and graphite. So is the script in graphite that you're using?
The script's in graphite.
Right, and you're quite right about the movement that it gives the work. It gives this lovely sense of movement, almost like there's a wind rustling through the trees.
Well, I am interested in movement as a metaphor too. Nothing ever stays the same in our life, and I've had a lot of changes in my world, and movement is energy to me. It's music, it's life itself, and that's what I like to. I like to show the positive through my art, and I'm also really inspired by people like Paul Klee, Mark Tobey, Wassily Kandinsky. Kandinsky was a spirit in art. Tobey and Klee did automatic writing. So in some ways, my writing is like automatic writing to me.
Well, when you're standing in front of the canvas, are you in a sense writing what's coming to you, or are you transcribing in a way that's not legible what you've already written out, say, in your journal?
Well, with this series, I started with specific poems, and I had very specific ideas about what I wanted to put down, and some paintings were specifically about certain people and had certain poems. But as I wrote over and over the poems, the words became illegible and other forms started to come out. And what I find happens is when I reach a kind of a visceral place with my painting and I forget what I'm doing, that's when the automatic writing or the energy of the painting itself starts to come through, and then I really don't. It has a voice of its own. They're like chapters in a book. Each chapter is different, but it relates to the one previously.
Right.
And also, again, you need to live with art for a while before you see all the intricacies of it and the things you want to take away or put back in.
And I think that's very true of your paintings. There's a temptation when you walk into a room with your paintings to scan and say, oh, they're all trees. But as you stand in the room and be with the paintings, there's a sense of the individuality of each of the pieces. And that's really clear to me, having now a number of times stood in a room with your paintings around me. It's too easy to dismiss the whole without spending the time, and boy, is it ever worth spending the time.
I believe as an artist, we each have an individual voice. And I look at it like a signature. Art historians talk about a signature
Yes.
in art. And that's the challenge for me, is always to remain with my own personal signature. To me, it's a combination of your craft, your intellect, and your spirit that go into a painting. It's those three things that make a powerful piece of art. Art to me is a discovery. I feel like I'm an adventurer when I'm painting. I'm never quite sure where I'm going to get with each painting. And that's what keeps me going. I love it. I just find it
Lovely.
very exciting. I guess the purpose for me is I have an idea. It doesn't matter what the viewer sees. It might not be the same idea that I have, but I want them to have an emotional experience or feel something when they look at it. I always see my own world as a microcosm for a much bigger world.
Well, you're using objects and ideas that are very personal to you, but have a larger contextual
They do.
meaning and underpinning and place that you can go with your work.
Well, they're very universal. I mean, there are trees everywhere. All the work I've always done, love letters, everybody understands what a love letter is. And again, it's not just that, it's where that takes me as well. And so it's my own discovery through the painting. And hopefully the viewer will have that same discovery as well.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell us, the viewers, that maybe I haven't asked yet?
Well, there are a couple of things. For one, you mentioned the title, City Trees, Other Voices.
Yes.
When I do my writing, it sparks from my own thoughts. But I really believe that nature has a voice as well, and we often don't hear that in our culture. We just take it for granted, as I have over the years. So I see trees as having a voice. The other thing, too, about being an artist for me that's really important is following contemporary art and being a contemporary artist. I think artists are really important in our culture and what we say. And so keeping up with contemporary art, knowing the history of art, knowing where I fit along those lines is really important.
I couldn't agree with you more about the importance and the role that artists play in our society. And I hope that those of you watching this video feel the same. My name is Ted Lederer. You've been watching It's All About Art, and I've been in conversation with Katherine Surridge at her studio in Vancouver about her upcoming exhibition, City Trees, Other Voices. Katherine, thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.